Hey, let's go for a walk. It's day 13 of this walking thing. And as such, let's just walk right on to the next story in Genesis here. Jacob and his family moved back to Bethel. It's near the place he had originally seen God that first night when he left home to escape his brother. And now he's a father with children of his own at this point. 11 sons, 1 daughter from his 4 wives. Joseph was his favorite, though. Joseph was the oldest son of Jacob's favorite wife, and he was one of the youngest of the brothers. And he would do this thing where he would bring back bad reports about his older siblings to Dad, about their work. Now, I'm not saying they didn't deserve it, but that's still going to put a little stress on the whole family relationship there, huh? Especially after Dad rewarded Jacob for this behavior by buying the young man a really fancy coat. So one day, when his brothers were all together taking care of the sheep, they saw Joseph coming. They decided, man, it's time. We're going to just do him in. So they grabbed him, ripped off his fancy jacket, and dumped him down a dry, shallow well to die of exposure. Now, fortunately for Joseph, just at this moment, some traders happened by. And rather than leaving him to die in the wilderness, his brothers sold him into slavery. And each one of them pocketed a nice chunk of change along with any blood guilt of what they had done. But they thought they'd cover it up. So to cover it up, they killed a goat, soaked the torn jacket in the blood, and then told their father that they'd found this. Obviously, this jacket was all that was left of their poor brother after he'd been eaten by some wild animal. You've heard this story before, I suspect. Now, what you may not realize is that Joseph was not the child of the blessing. See, there's this blessing. As we've been following the story in Genesis, we've sort of been following the blessing. Each family that said they were part of God's family, as they walked with him, God would have them pass this blessing on from one generation to the next, from one father to one son. And he'd become the next holder of the blessing. It's one of the things that Jacob had stolen from his brother Esau those years before. And he'd repented of it, but it didn't change the fact that the blessing stayed with him until he passed it on to one of his sons. In his case, Judah. But Judah is one of these brothers who just told Joseph to make a buck rather than leaving him in a ditch to die. Like those were the only 2 choices they had. And as far as they were concerned at that point, those were the only 2 choices they had. Which is sad because God wasn't in the action they took. God wasn't behind the steps they took. God's intent for the lives of these 11 men never included fratricide or the damage that they inflicted on their family. But God still walked with them, all of them, because he had promised that he would. Now, Joseph, he's going to be okay. These other 10, most of them anyway, they won't turn out as poorly as you might think. They even begin to pay attention to God and listen to him. I mean, not much. Not enough to prevent further heartbreak, but enough to remember that they are supposed to be God's people. So how about you? As we walk through life, we make the choices that we have to bring us to the place that we're at. Are we remembering that God has promised to walk with us? That he's here in this place, even when we're not aware of it? We've all done things we're not proud of. I've come to think that's actually just part of being human. However, God is always walking with us, always hoping that we'll stop and talk to him or lean on him, live out life on this path that he's laid out for us to walk. We can count on that. God will always walk with us. I better finish my walk here before wild animals set on me. Grace and peace to you all.